Hi everyone, in today's tactics video I'm going to review our abhuman friends, the Bullgryns and Ogryns. This is one of a series of videos I'm doing looking at Astra Militarum unit tactics from the 9th edition codex. Check out this video playlist if you want to see more. So starting with the basics, both of these units are elite troop choices in blobs of between 3 to 5 models, and their core stats are a 6-inch move, weapon skill 3, ballistic skill 4, strength 6, toughness 5, 3 wounds, 4 attacks, 5 attacks from the boss, the Bonehead, who also gives them a leadership of 8. The Ogryns have a 5+ save and the Bullgryns have a 4+ save, and both are further boosted by the Wall of Muscle rule, where all incoming damage is reduced by 1 to a minimum of 1. This is a pretty powerful rule, significantly boosting this survivability, where for example against Space Marine Blade Guard veterans, with their master-crafted power swords of a flat 2 damage, your opponent would need to be saving obviously double the number of saves, which may theoretically give them twice the number of wounds. Of course, against damage 1 weapons, this rule does nothing, but against anything with multiple damage, they could tank a lot more damage than you think. Passing on their war gear for now, their keywords are Infantry, Militarum Accelerator, Abhuman, and Ogryns and Bullgryns on the respective data sheets. These core rules are particularly important as we look at stratagems at the end of the video. The lack of the keyword core and regimental means they can't benefit any senior officer reroll auras, i.e. from Acadian Castellan, can't receive regimental orders, or there is a way to get around this later, and of course don't benefit from your regimental doctrine, i.e. born soldiers. So outside of Prefectus orders, their data sheet is pretty much what you have to work with. So like any unit you consider for your army, ask yourself, what is this unit going to do for me in my army list? As you think about scoring secondary objectives, these two units can't contribute to boots on the ground, don't break the nearby and officer requirement from flexible command, and given their infantry can perform actions, and at 3 wounds per model, do contribute a lot to the no prisoners secondary if your opponent is considering taking this if you've got an infantry heavy list. Also organically, they don't have objectives secured, although via Prefectus orders they can be made OPSEC. So an army that leans 95% into the shooting phase, our abhuman friends give us some degree of melee presence and multi-wound mid-level survivability. Personally, I've always struggled holding objectives, given infantry squads are squishy and a Lehman Russ's footprint is sometimes too big to hold an objective which is partially obscured by terrain, meaning it can't hide effectively, whilst of course an infantry unit could do so. So either of these units can be an answer here, being sent out to bully units off an objective, or be targeted by enemy units and relying on the inherent survivability of -1 damage and toughness 5. As said, not breaking a flexible command, release pressure of units that need to be near an officer. So being sent out to contest an objective, move block enemy units or clog up enemy units, focusing more on objective scoring or denial adds an additional tool to your toolbox. Now looking back at their war gear, Ogryns are equipped with frag bombs, which are frag grenades that boosted to AP2, which clearly is huge, and its Ripper gun is an impressive Assault 3, Strength 5 AP2, 2 damage that doubles as a melee weapon with Strength 5 AP1, flat 1 damage. What makes the Ogryns interesting is that they can shoot into melee thanks to their point blank barrage rule. This is great, but this rule is also kind of shared by most of our vehicles. Here I'll touch on a point I made in my Rough Rider video, being that Astra Militarum is an army that leans heavily into the shooting phase, but fielding units that aren't shooting focus is going against the grain. That being said, having some participation in the fight phase can be very helpful in certain matchups. With this in mind, Ogryns look the less superior of the two when compared to the Bullgryns melee output. Sure, shooting the Ripper guns in melee can be devastating, but a ballistic skill of 4+ and no way to organically boost this, and also not benefiting from the regimental doctrine, I think Ogryns are simply outdone by other shooting focused units out there. I'm not ruling them out completely, but I think there are plenty of other similar units in the codex that would definitely outperform them in the shooting phase. Now let's check out their better armoured brothers, the Bullgryns. The crucial element here is the Bullgryns have access to their shields, with the 2+ slave on the slab shield and the 4+ invul save on the brute shield. A common loadout is one model to have a 2+ save, with the rest having a 4+ invul save. You get a bit tricky and have the 2+ save model towing a piece of terrain to give them a theoretical 1+ save. This combo of a strong save alongside the -1 damage could have them really taking a lot of damage and been around longer than you think. Access to the 4+ invul save is relatively rare in the Guard Codex, with only really a battle tank having a 5+ invul save from the tank case ability. All the character models having between a 4 and a 5+ invul save, or through a Psychina discipline. If you're looking for a unit to push up the board and take a fair bit of damage, then the Bullgryns are the way to go. Now weaponry, they have access to the Grenadier Gauntlet, which is an 18-inch assault D6 strength 4 AP1 blast weapon. And these stats aren't too bad, but like their Bullgryn brothers, Blizzard School of 4+ would make this horribly unreliable. Also, this weapon can't fire into melee, like the Ogryn's Ripper Gun, so the melee choice is the Maul, probably is the way to go. Coming in at strength 7 AP 1, 2 damage, this will bully most medium infantry units. AP1 is a limiting factor, and of course relying on the weight of dice to overwhelm your opponent's saving throw, with a flat 2 damage being quite tasty if it does go through. Now before I forget, points wise both the Ogryns and Bullgryns are 30 points a model, with the Bullgryn Maul being an additional 5 points. So 3 Bullgryns is 105 points, which is only 5 points more than the Khazrakins and Rough Riders, for example. Now buffing the Ogryns and Bullgryns, having the human keyword means they can receive Perfectus orders, which suddenly opens up a lot more potential. At all costs, gives them OPSEC, which is always a safe bet if charging onto an objective. If the target survives the charge and has models remaining, at least having OPSEC improves your chances of contesting that objective. Duty and Honour will also be helpful if you need to advance them onto an objective to raise banners, and given they are more survivable, you'll be a bit more comfortable having them exposed than a squishy infantry squad. As said earlier, they are unable to receive regimental orders from an officer. However, having Lord Solar, he can issue them both regimental and Perfectus orders. The Lord Solar unit is a powerful buffing unit, able to order pretty much everything in the Codex, including our Abhuman friends. Now given the Bullgryns, the fixed bayonet order would naturally boost them to hitting on 2s with AP2, so suddenly 13 attacks at strength 7 AP2 flat 2 damage will be doing a lot more pain. I think to effectively use the Bullgryns, you want to be taking Lord Solar in your list as well, as AP2 attacks means the best of armoured foes with a 2+ save, and then saving on a 4+, which naturally is reduced as opposed to a 3+. And quickly on army list building, Guard are fine, experiencing a 50% win rate in the competitive scene, with the meta pretty much agreeing on the fact that Astra Militarum's predominant playstyle is deleting your opponent off the tabletop, with plenty of live and rust and multiple Khazrakin squads inflicting maximum mortal wounds seeming to be the play at the moment. Fielding Bullgryns is obviously a departure from this, and I'd say probably requires a bit more experience to effectively utilise them. The fight phase is a phase most Astra Militarum focused players don't have much experience with its nuances of effectively using terrain to avoid overwatch, try pinning a model so they can't fall back, and positioning correctly for the counter charge. With that in mind, I'd say Bullgryns are preferable over Ogryns, and if you are taking them, you need to be taking Lord Solar to use them effectively. The most important aspect here is you need to be confident participating in the fight phase. If you're new to Guard, I'd probably stick with the more traditional units like Limb and Rust battle tanks, Khazrakins, infantry squads, and scout sentinels or armoured sentinels. Lastly, on stratagems, there are 2 to be aware of. Thunderous Charge for 1 command point allows you to inflict a mortal wound if every model in your unit rolls higher than the target's toughness on the charge. Now a critical piece here is that it only works for Ogryns and Rough Riders, so our favourite Bullgryns miss out on this one. Also, if you're taking Sage's 3 models, that's only 3 chances to inflict a mortal wound, which probably isn't a good use of your command points. There's then also the Shield of Flesh stratagem, which allows a nearby infantry unit within 3 inches of an Ogryn unit -1 to the attacker's hit roll. Again, this is just for Ogryns and does feel like a typo excluding the Bullgryns from both of these stratagems. But yep, my review of the Ogryn and Bullgryn units, hopefully helpful, and what's been your experience using them in the 9th edition Codex. So if you want to support me, you can do so with a like, comment, or by subscribing, watching any of my other videos. If you're feeling super generous, you can join my Patreon platoon. And huge thanks to my current supporters. Get your bayonet sharp, las gun oiled, faith in the Emperor strong, Veteran Platoon, sound off. Tank Commander Glenn. Tank Commander Mitchell. Tank Commander Watchdog Van Etten. Colour Sergeant DuPont. Sergeant Broxius, Adal, the Colonel Merrill. Veterans Gibson, Hall, Lundeen. Guardsman Beard, Coquelin, Flint, Hills, Malik, Nitton, Nguyen, Smith, Tom, Tompkin. Conscript Bosun, England, Gilliam, Goodwin.